Prologue. The Glow of the Hero. I saw the hero. At the limit where the sky and the sea fused into an absolute darkness, as if the end of the world was in sight. In the vast ocean, where despair and dusk alternated like endless waves. There, in the middle of the darkness that devoured everything, tearing apart the roars of monstrous creatures, I saw the glow of a hero. The root of the curse is the blessing, the original sin that devoured half of my being. The impact of the sea was more than just turbulence. Everything was pulverized and crushed without mercy. The drops flying through the air felt like bullets. For a human being, standing on the water was an intolerable act of arrogance. In a distant future, where a great floating fortress known as the Academy lay in ruins, the scattered remains were nothing more than broken planks, floating like shameful rafts in the ocean. However, even in this final and desolate expanse of the sea, the light of the hero never went out. Clinging to a broken plank, I could only stare, stunned, as that light was imprinted in my eyes. There is no purification. There is no redemption. There is no salvation. Only the resonating sound of the heavens, my sin a long and solemn invocation. An immense magical power. A gray-haired witch faced the storm and the furious wind, singing with lips stained with scarlet blood. In a sea where reason was deformed by chaotic whirlpools, even colossal creatures that had ruled the ocean trembled in her presence. Those immense beasts, capable of creating devastating waves with a single movement, roared in fear. Trumpets of the gods, harps of the spirits, melodies of light, the marks of eternal sin. The sea struck a supreme blow. A monstrous wave, capable of sweeping everything in its path, was stopped only by the cries of other heroes who faced it. An endless rain of flashes was repelled by the sword of a brave woman. The brutal attack of an ocean monarch, capable of destroying worlds, was contained by a single warrior with a sword. The magic of those clinging to the wreckage destroyed its scales, and the sea warriors, facing death itself, jumped into the abyss to pierce harpoons into its colossal body. O fate beloved by the sealed garden, break into pieces, I deeply despise you. The blood flowed endlessly, the screams never ceased, endless. The song turned into a requiem, and still the tragic melody cried for a victory. Even when my body could no longer move, that light tearing through the darkness imprinted its glow in my eyes. With this offering, with this seal of sin, I will destroy everything, Holy Bell Tower. The power reached its limit and, without ceremony, was released. The symbol of the end of the world was consumed by a destructive blessing. The world, tinged with darkness, became a blinding white. Without a trace of beauty, the climax of devastation enveloped everything. Just before losing consciousness in that white world, the last thing I heard was this, the triumphant roar of the heroes who had defeated the immense beast. The weavers of miracles and hope who defied the impossible. Was that what was needed to illuminate this damned world? Was that glow what was necessary to save it? I saw the hero. The spread of the light, known as hope, must never be extinguished. Even if our turn came, we must revive that brilliant scene. The world needed heroes. It was as simple as that. Just as the world longed for them, my eyes and heart would also search for them. A new hero being born, the first cry of another hero in this world. We, as humanity, desire a guide, a bearer of hope. Lion. The sky was blue, clear. Behind my eyelids, I still remembered that dark ocean, but in front of me, the briny lake sparkled as always. Listening to the song of the seagulls, from the top of the central tower of Frigg, the gigantic ship, I looked out over the academy spread before me. Then, a divine voice called me, making me turn. Baldur Sama. Is something happening? We've received a message from the Great Wall. One of the roars has resonated from the valley. The air, which had been so calm, tensed around me. How big is the one that escaped? It seems to be a large one. It's trapped in our barrier, but it won't be long before it breaks free. The director of the academy, my god Baldur, brought me this message. I closed my lips and thought for a moment, looking to the north, where the mountain peaks formed a horizon. I'd like to know the divine perspective. How much time do you think we have? 12 days, although it's just a hunch. The god's answer was brief, and I did not doubt it. I nodded slowly. In that case, I'll go. And if I may, I want to take a companion. Him? Yes. The god's serene expression softened into a smile, and I responded with mine. For the last time, I looked toward it. The walled city, home to the heroes and its majestic white tower that touched the heavens. I will fulfill the promise of that adventure, and perhaps I'll dream of a new hero. Chapter 1: The Chaos of Orario. My name is Nina Tula, and I belong to the Balder class in the school district. I look forward to working with you as part of this internship. Faction experience starting today, she exclaimed with enthusiasm. Nina had brown hair with some strands dyed jade. When to nod vigorously, his burgundy tie moved along with his determined gesture. Belle, Hestia, and the others were watching her from the living room of the residence of the Hestia family. I never thought the students would actually come from the school district. School district, commented Mikoto, clearly surprised. It's impressive that they even sought you out for recruitment, Belle-sama, added Haruhime, bringing her hands together in a gesture of admiration. Admiration towards Belle. I haven't done anything that grand. Really, replied Belle, scratching the back of his neck, confused by the compliments. 3 days had passed since Belle finished his participation in the school district under the disguise of a student. Now, back as first-class adventurer and member of the Hestia Familia, felt a bittersweet relief. Although Director Balder had offered him to continue at the academy, Hestia had insisted that he return. However, Belle still couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. His true identity had been revealed during the Dungeon Training Special Dungeon Training. Before, he was known as Lapis Flamez, an alias that concealed his reality as the adventurer Rabbitfoot. Now, the students of the 3rd platoon, whom he had led, knew who he really was. While he was reflecting on all this, Nina's voice pulled him out of his thoughts. She said timidly, lowering her head upon realizing that. Belle was watching her. Belle also averted his gaze, remembering the time when, on an impulse, he said, "I want to see many landscapes by your side." Even though he hadn't said it like a confession, now it seemed embarrassing to him. On the other hand, Nina saw Belle as a trustworthy figure, almost like an older brother. Although she was an honor student in the district school, her simple and warm attitude towards him made him feel at ease. Hestia, observing the interaction, decided to intervene. "We welcome you as an intern so you can experience the faction, Nina-kun. I don't know if in the future you will want to join our family, but it would be an honor if you considered it. I hope you enjoy your time here," he said with a smile, extending his hand towards Nina. "Yes, thank you very much," responded Nina, taking the goddess's hand with emotion. Meanwhile, Mikoto and Haruhime watched the scene with smiles. Light smiles. Hestia, on the other hand, looked like she had just bitten into a sour plum, which caused the others to stifle a laugh. "So, will the interns stay in the main house?" asked Mikoto, evaluating the logistics. "Yes, if the family allows it. The guild suggests that they stay at the operations base to facilitate the experience," Aina replied, adjusting her glasses. "In fact, Balder-sama has already approved this, and—" Nina hesitated a moment before adding with a slight smile, "I already brought my luggage outside. I'll go get it with my sister now." "I'll help you too, Nina," Belle offered immediately. However, Nina's response surprised him. "All right, Belle-senpai." Belle-senpai? He repeated, bewildered by the sudden title that she had assigned to him. The young half-elf simply smiled, a slight blush on her cheeks, while Belle tried to process what had just happened. "Stop squirming," she said, looking mildly annoyed, as though tasting some strange delicacy that was both spicy and maddening. "Well, there's no need to be so surprised. Just call me as you always do." As always, You mean Lapi-kun? Ugh! For a moment, Nina reverted to the tone she used when talking to her classmates and glanced at Belle. The nickname Lapi-kun was certainly awkward, both because it would be confusing if overheard by someone unfamiliar with it, and because of Belle's own self-consciousness about it. Seeing Belle rendered speechless, Nina didn't seem shy at all. In fact, she looked pleased. If you're an adventurer, I'm your junior, so should I call you senpai? No, please let me. Sure, I understand, Nina. Thank you. Well then, I'll go fetch your luggage with your sister. Laughing, Nina left the room with her sister. Belle seemed to be in a good mood. Watching her long brown hair bounce like the tail of an animal as she walked away, he placed a hand on the back of his head. You seem like a nice guy, senpai. Oh, enough, Welf. To think the day would come when someone called you senpai, it fills me with excitement. Even Ryu-san. Welf, with one arm resting on Belle's right shoulder, grinned mischievously. On his left shoulder was Ryu, smiling. Feeling completely defeated, Belle glanced again at the door through which Nina and the others had exited. Ah! I was so nervous. Walking down the mansion's hallway, Nina pressed a hand to her chest and let out a deep sigh. Ina, walking beside her, felt both happy and at ease. It was strange to see Nina, usually so confident, showing such vulnerability. Ina smiled warmly, feeling great joy in witnessing this side of her sister. Thank you for your hard work. But you said it was fine, right? Lord Hestia is a deity, and Belkun and the others are as well. I felt reassured because Baldur-sama told me about that too, but calling him Bell-senpai was so hard. Even though I acted strong, to me, Rapis-kun will always be Rapis-kun. Ah, is that so? Ah, my heart still races when I look into those red eyes. I'm sure they'll always be there. Couldn't you at least wear the wig you used when you were Loppy? I don't think that's possible, but... Nina, whose face constantly shifted between a deep crimson and a soft pink, matching Belle's range of expressions from earlier, made Ina stifle a sigh. She knew other details about Rapis-kun and had been eager to scold him for infiltrating the learning district without revealing his identity. But if Director Baldur and her mentor Leon were also involved, there was nothing more Ina could say. What are they even doing? It just gives me a headache. In her weary mind, she was thinking about her beloved little sister, who was now the adventurer under her charge, and so on, when Niina suddenly stopped and turned to face her. Still, I never expected even my big sister to like Mr. Bell. From now on, we're rivals. Wow, so my sister and I think the same way, Aina thought, momentarily escaping reality. She hastily adjusted her glasses, which had started to slide down her nose. It's not like I like Belkun or anything. You're lying, sister. You were blushing all over. And besides, I completely understand why you'd like Rapis-kun. I mean, Mr. Bell. It doesn't matter that he's younger than you and older than me. Yes, I get it. We're sisters, after all. Scolded by her younger sister, Aina stammered. Nina placed a hand on her chest and nodded. We share the same taste. In fact, in our family, the Tools have a weakness for that type of man. Mom and Dad are proof, and now you're just about to say the same thing. Seeing her sister about to say something along those lines, Aina blushed and tried to cover her mouth. Besides, Mr. Bell is a first-class adventurer. Even if your sister isn't one, there are plenty of people who'll try to catch his attention. It's true, Bell is now an undeniable level 5. It would be strange if he weren't popular. For those who aren't popular, it's a peculiar situation. However, Bell is different. I don't want him to be seen that way. Screamed the big sister instinct, that pesky root that had nurtured Bell since he was a novice. It was a painful cry that said, I want Bell to be more like this, more like that. Meanwhile, Niina, curiously watching her older sister cover her mouth and then start to agonize, struck a fighting pose. But I won't give up. Not to my sister nor to anyone else. I've become so competitive. Aina's eyes were serious and her heart was pure, but she closed her eyes for a moment, feeling both happy and sad as she looked at her younger sister, who had unknowingly been influenced by the school district. After all, there was something that needed to be said. By the time she realized it, it was already too late, and she was about to give up. The true enemy was elsewhere. Nina? What is it, sister? Belkun, does he have someone he admires? Or someone he likes? What? Eee! At the sound of her younger sister's screams that day, Aina plugged her slender, pointed ears with her fingers. I think I heard some kind of scream. In the living room of the mansion where Nina and the others had left, I looked toward the door leading to the hallway, feeling a bit sweaty. In the lounge, where the atmosphere had relaxed somewhat after the interns from the sect experience had vacated their seats, the gods were reclining on the sofas, chatting among themselves. Still, receiving a reverse nomination from the school district side, that was unexpected. We also informed the guild that the recruitment search would be suspended for a while, right? Elfkun joined us, so I told him to stop getting carried away. Well, I thought it'd be nice if you came from the other side, but... Recruitment from the school district was impossible anyway, so it was a happy miscalculation, wasn't it? I feel the same. There's no faction that could secure a level 2 healer except for the founding members. We should make the most of this good fortune. As expected, Belsama is a lucky rabbit. Come to think of it, I was the one who ended the recruitment requests that seemed impossible, so I'm not sure what to say. Lily leaned back against the chair with a puzzled look on her face. Mikoto-san glanced beside her. The god responded with arms crossed. Welf took the opportunity to share his opinion. Ryu-san nodded, and Haruhime-san looked delighted. A smile lit up her face. Though I was concerned about what was happening in the hallway, I smiled wryly and said something that didn't make me feel entirely happy. Actually, considering the fame of the Hestia Familia after defeating Ottar and the others, the current situation is almost too good to be true. Mr. Sear offered me a delicious cup of tea, steaming and aromatic. I took it and said, "Oh, thank you. I suppose that's true, but, to be honest, there are too many people chasing after Belkun." Well, Belsan is also a first-class adventurer, isn't he? He's on the direct path to being a popular heartthrob. I don't like that at all. As the tea was served to everyone, the goddess took a big sip from her cup, sighed deeply, and at that moment, "What are you doing here?" A scream echoed through the room. A loud sound filled the air. Now we were startled to see the gray-haired girl who had discreetly joined our group and was serving tea as if it were the most natural thing in the world. We noticed she was wearing the tavern uniform. It was Sir. "What's the big deal? Let me join in, please." "What are you talking about? What happened to your job at the tavern? Horn and the others are doing all the work, so I just stopped by while doing some shopping." Meanwhile, Hestia-sama shouted, and Seer cleverly dodged her words, while Haruhime, dressed as a maid, was shocked, exclaiming, "Have I been replaced?" For some reason, Seer often did things like this. Due to the need to protect Haruhime, Ryu, and the others, and with the gods always present at the Hestia Familia residence, Seer would often show up unannounced. Of course, the gods had unrestricted access. However, Goddess Hestia was not happy with this situation. It was said that if Seer got too comfortable, she might start treating the Hestia Familia residence as her own home. Seer, in fact, seemed eager to stay overnight there. "Go back to your home. The war zone in Folkvanger is now under the guild's control, so I can't enter freely anymore. Please, let me stay here." "I don't care. Sleep at the tavern if you want." "I'm already squeezed in with Horn, Anya, Chloe, and the others. I end up bed-hopping, crammed in with them. Ooh, I already told you. Having you sleep near Belle is even more dangerous than letting Aisha join. Leave, Seer." "Can't you just call me Seer-sama?" As Seer and Hestia argued, Lily sighed in resignation. Finally, after much persistence, Seer agreed to occasionally stay at the Hestia Familia residence, gradually lowering her demands. Her negotiation strategy was clear. Ask for a lot at first, then lower the expectations. a trick Hermes had once explained to me. And as goddess Hestia panted in frustration, Lily and the others sighed, murmuring, "There's no way Hestia-sama can win an argument against Seer-sama." "Huh? Is the tea all gone? Then I'll prepare some." Seer-san and Haruhima-san also seemed to be having a tough day. I took the white ceramic teapot Welf handed me. Seer and the goddess continued their argument, with Seer saying, "Thank you, goddess Sama," and the goddess responding, "You too, I still don't like you. Stop hugging me." Meanwhile, Haruhime, dressed as a maid, tried to calm the situation alongside Lily and Mikoto. Not wanting to become someone who does nothing at home just because I'm the leader, I nodded at Welf's apology and headed to the kitchen. While preparing the magic stone to light the fire, I started washing the used cups. Then, "Let me help you, Belle." It was Miss Ryu, now wearing her familiar casual attire. She approached with the ease of a seasoned tavern worker. "Ah, thank you, Ryu." "It's nothing. It's my duty as a new member." "That's not necessary. At least when I joined Elise's faction, that was how it was." I stifled my surprise and somehow managed to thank her. Ryu shook her head and smiled as she mentioned Elise and the others. From that point on, we divided the tasks. I placed the teapot on the fire, and Ryu took care of washing the dishes. We found ourselves standing naturally side by side, our shoulders very close. I felt a slight dizziness as I caught the scent of a woman emanating from her beautiful golden hair. Just Ryu and me. This is hard. I couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. When Lily and the others were present, everything was fine, but at this moment, being alone with her, everything became more tense. The reason was clear. I like you. As a man, I love you. The words she confessed to me during the War of Factions, those simple words, still lingered in my mind and heart, tearing me apart. I couldn't move forward, didn't know how to respond, and had no idea what to do. Ryu, does she really not know? I glanced at her sideways, trying to ease the tension in my stiff neck. Ryu remained so calm, so serene. I can't do it. I needed to be honest. I didn't want to hurt her, but I had to clarify what I felt. My heart kept battling between my selfish feelings and the decision to do the right thing. Ryu, I want to tell you something. But don't say it, Belle. My words were interrupted. With those sky-colored eyes that seemed to read me completely, Ryu stopped me. If Seer couldn't achieve it, it's not surprising that I might end up on the same path, she said, her eyes softening. It's okay, I understand. Ryu added those words with a calm smile. My face turned red, feeling as though everything I had tried to keep hidden had been exposed. It seemed she had understood me completely, just like she did during the Goddess Festival when she saw me in my most vulnerable state. And now, my heart, full of insecurities, wanted to say something, but I couldn't. Ryu looked at me gently and in a whisper said, "But I want to keep loving you just a little longer." That was, if I recall correctly, when we met in Daedalus Street in the Labyrinth City to rescue the dragon girl Vina and her friends. With a finger on my lips, she made me remember that moment. Everything happened so quickly that I couldn't help but blush again. Finally, the stubborn elf has been honest. So, is it okay if I keep being carried away by these feelings for a while longer? For a fairy, life is long, so I can afford to let myself be swept along by this passion for a bit more. That's what I was asked for. Faced with that plea, pride and appearances as a man were nothing more than trivial, insignificant things. "Is that okay?" she asked. I nodded awkwardly, taking my time. That was all I could do. "Thank you." She said that and left. She had made sure to prepare enough cups and had neatly arranged them. I couldn't follow her. As clueless as I was, I understood I shouldn't go after her at that moment. To top it all off, the teapot placed on the magical stone stove began to boil. I stood frozen for a while before slowly turning off the heat. I no longer had any idea what the proper temperature for making tea was. The master would surely scold me. In fact, I almost wished he would. being a man and having someone care for me? No, that wasn't all. Was I being manipulated by an older sister figure? As I covered my forehead and tried to cool my flushed face, I realized that I had been forced to accept her way of putting things in order. After leaving the kitchen, Ryu did not return to the living room for some reason. Instead, she stepped into the hallway. She walked at a perfectly measured pace, and after turning the corner, she collapsed heavily. Burying her face in both knees, her elven pointed ears were completely red. "You did very well, Ryu." It was then that, suddenly, no one knew how long she had been there or from where she had been watching, but Seer poked her head out from the shadows of the hallway. She approached Ryu and with a smile began to comfort her. Ryu slowly lifted her face, as red as her ears. "Sir, are you sad now? Or embarrassed?" The second. "I knew it. I'm surprised at how mature you were, Ryu." Seer, now sitting beside her, hugged Ryu and began to gently pat her back. Surprisingly, Ryu didn't resist, and with her face still red, she began to murmur excuses. "During the War of the Families, I confessed my feelings to put things in order, not because I wanted him to accept me. I already knew what his answer would be, so there's nothing to regret now." Yes, yes. Besides, even though I said that, I'm not a woman of convenience. Someday I'll be drawn to someone else, and when I choose my partner. I understand. But Ryu, you're just like that goddess of monster first loves. You'll obsess over your first love, won't be able to forget it, and stay stuck in it forever. That describes you. Ryu spoke quickly, raising her voice as she accused the young woman of the town, who had brought up the supreme goddess of heavy loves, Freya, as if it were something unrelated to her. It was like witnessing the very goddess Hestia. Now we're both comrades rejected by Bel. I haven't been explicitly rejected yet. Oh, Ryu is sly. But I understand. Both men and women become unstoppable after being rejected. I've never experienced rejection, so hearing that from you, who governs love. By the way, even if Bel becomes a soul, I'll keep chasing him, and when he's reborn, I'll go see him again. I'm one step ahead of you, Ryu. Stop talking nonsense! Ryu, who finally reacted, tried to reprimand her friend for her absurd view of love that transcended lives and boundaries. She moved away from Seer, both of their faces red, and shot her a warning look. Seer, however, smiled broadly. She was happy to have conversations like this with a friend. Is it harder to secure a place beside Loppy than to get a job at the guild? That's why I told you. A pair of half-elves witnessed the entire exchange from the other side of the hallway. As they carried their loads, Nina trembled, peeking out from behind the wall, and Aina sighed deeply. Both understood that their own futures were also full of difficulties. What does it take to be the leader of a familia? I once asked Finn, the leader of the Loki familia, the most powerful faction in the city. It was after the Palom engagement incident. We crossed paths on the street and struck up a brief conversation. Back then, I was a novice leader constantly questioning whether I was fit for the role. I thought maybe Lily or Welf would be better, and that I wasn't qualified. Finn, a respected veteran, answered without hesitation, the ability to organize and resolve personal conflicts. I remember breaking out in a cold sweat, expecting him to talk about brilliant intellect or leadership skills. According to Finn, in community life, it's natural for negative feelings to arise among companions, and for even the smallest misunderstandings to affect group cooperation. Clear conflicts and distrust are scarier than monsters. Early detection and resolution of frictions are things we can leave to the gods while on the surface, but it's not the same in the dungeon. That's why I monitor the members' movements with the help of Riveria and Raoul. Finn saw the gods as the true leaders of a familia, but he added, in particular, be wary of romantic entanglements. That made me think even more about my relationship with Ryu. She said everything would remain the same, but I still felt I wasn't up to the task. Well, I also have someone who chases me with excessive devotion, so I can't say much. But in your case, Finn told me then, lead, always advancing ahead of everyone. A leader like that can also exist. For the me of that time and the me of now, his words were like the light of a beacon in the darkness. Phew! That's why the leader of the Hestia Familia took such a strong step forward that the ground cracked beneath him, launching himself against the horde of monsters. Cutting through deafening roars and the fierce attacks of claws and fangs, I turned the combination of the dagger of the gods and the white fantasy into a succession of 7 precise slashes. The thick scales and axe-shaped tails of the 3 monstrous Spino axes couldn't withstand the blows and were torn apart, eliciting agonized screams from the creatures. We follow Belsama. Be careful! Those dinosaurs are incredibly strong. Enveloped in the light of the level boost, Makoto and Welf ran behind me. To minimize their burden, I adjusted my movements and faced these new enemies, dinosaur-like monsters, with wide and strategic maneuvers. Current location, Floor 29. The area is known as the Deep Jungle Canyon. After overcoming the aquatic labyrinth city, which extends to Floor 27, we find ourselves in a vast tropical forest within the dungeon. Here, colossal trees rise as far as the eye can see, growing so densely they form an impenetrable wall. However, the main path is defined by a V-shaped formation between the forests on both sides, giving rise to the canyon in the jungle. From floor 29 to 32, the dungeon has a structure of 3 or 4 tiered levels, offering an impressive view that allows you to see from the upper entrance down to the lower level connection. It's a majestic and unique sight, perhaps one of the reasons behind this region's name. However, this new territory of the lower levels, teeming with powerful dinosaur-like monsters, is where we've decided to venture as part of the Hestia Familia. Orario! Exclamation mark. Don't face them head-on? Even with the level boost, you could be thrown if you're not careful. Mikoto attempted to deflect the attack of an Almarosaurus, a creature with 3 heads, using her katana. However, the impact was so strong that her boots lost contact with the ground. Unlike the imposing and powerful Almyrosaur, the agile Shadow Raptors employed hit-and-run tactics. Even Welf, who had argued extensively with Lily about using the magic sword, eventually pursed his lips and unsheathed the magic sword without hesitation. The infernal fire of the first radiant's shining moon consumed the group's left flank along with the assailants. The last time I passed through here, I thought the same thing. It's obvious that a level 2 or lower party stands no chance against this. As Welf shouted in desperation while attacking his next enemy, I couldn't help but agree with him. During our previous expedition, when Ryu and I needed help, the rest of the Hestia Familia crossed this deep jungle canyon to reach floor 37. On that occasion, they did so under the protection of the Xenos, including Rito and his group. Although they were accompanied, they must have witnessed the devastating power of these dinosaurs, which is why their tension was different from mine even before arriving here.